So you stagger into the silver ale. Everybody looks guilty at everybody else. Like Court's got faces all cut up. Bert's covered in even more cat hair.
Magnus is wearing a flash new suit of clothes.
Yep. There are strange reports of a creature lurking in the sewers of Lankhmar, but you don't know anything about that.
Could be many of them.
Could be anything, that.
Wasn't us. We're great and innocent.
Yeah.
I wonder if we could get like a secret bat tunnel made from the near the entrance to the sewers in our warehouse.
Right, so you're sitting there bemoaning the fact that once more you've brought the pack, and sitting there having a hair of the dog. A jug of wine is poured out between the three years. Approached by quite an obvious sailor type. He wears his jib cut in the style of the sailors that tend to sail around the inner sea.
I'll turn and go, hello, old man, young man. Do you know why sailors can't say the alphabet?
No, he just looks a bit confused. No.
They get lost at sea.
Ah, good one.
What can we do you for?
He says, I asked around, and apparently you likely fellas are the people to speak to if you have a bit of coin that needs getting, or a treasure, or an adventure that needs having.
It has been known.
Because you did do that weekend of Bernie's with the dead corpse at the window. Thus meeting you.
True.
He says, my name's Kelt. I've had a terrible time.
All right, Cal.
He says,
I'll pour him a glass of wine.
Thank you very much. He looks dirty and unshaven. He's not carrying his big kit bag, traditional with the sailors in the land of the eight cities. He says, I'm working aboard the Siren, running around the Great Salt Marsh. During a storm, we crashed, and many of the crew, she didn't make it. The ones that did fell victim to the beasts out in the Great Marsh. I don't have the connections to secure the berth on a local vessel. Now I'm in debt to a moneylender who plans to turn me into the Slayers Brotherhood if I don't pay up my debts, he says. However, and leans conspiratorially forward over his glass of wine, he says, I think I might have a way to put us both in better straits.
It's buried treasure, isn't it?
Aye. The Siren, she were carrying a pier chest containing thousands of eagles. We were first to abandon the treasure as we sought shelter from the storm. The waves forced the Siren deep enough into the marsh to be sure she can't be seen from the coast, and since the rest of the crew perished, I am the only person what knows of her location.
Okay.
I can draw you a map to the Siren. And I'll do so for trifle. 50 gold relics. It'll buy me passage home and give me enough to get started on another ship.
How about 100 gold relics?
100 gold relics. Aye, that'd be fine.
Right, draw them out. We'll pay when we get back.
Oh, he says, oh no, you've got to give us at least half. I mean, I'm so broke. I'm so broke that I haven't eaten since this morning, and
You could come with us.
I could, but I'm not much of a fighter.
You don't have to be. All you need to come is to make sure that your investments of information is doled out properly. And I mean, we can share anything 5 ways. 9,000 gold relics 5 ways. That's like, I get my little abacus out and click, 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 click. 200 gold relics each.
Aye.
So we'll be rich.
He says, well, you got to give me at least some spending money. 30 gold relics at least, just to keep me going.
You said half of 25, half of 50, which would have been 25, and now you're going up again. You need to decide.
He
I'll
looks
meet you
a little
I'll meet you-
confused at this point.
in the middle. I'll give you 3 gold rilks, which is enough to drink yourself for a week, and we should be back by then. And we'll give you a 5th share of your treasure.
Make a persuasion roll.
Court thinks it's a great idea, don't you, Court?
I don't even move my head, just my eyes, and I just stare at him.
Wow. Make a persuasion roll there, Al. Right, you get a 2. But on his smart roll, he's rolled a double 1.
Hey.
He rubs his chin and he says, I tell you what, if you leave me enough gold to have a bit of drink and some women and some food, and I'll await you coming back, and then I'll get my share.
How is it to get to the ship?
You what?
How long will it take us to get to the wreck?
He says it'll probably take you about a week. It's near the Causeway Road.
Right, I will give him 5 rilk because that's enough to drink for a week.
Here's a map that I did not prepare earlier, but what was in the player's guide. There'll be a map
Handy.
of Noan. And you basically need to head south out of Lankhmar, and it's on the Great Salt Marsh, sort of era. Sort of there-ish. Before the Sinking Lands. The Sinking Lands are called the Sinking Lands because you know the Giant's Causeway? It's kind of like that, where they actually sink at least once a day. They sink under the ocean so that it turns into an island.
Do we know if there's any little fishing villages or trading posts anywhere along the coast near it where this thing beats? So cut the journey, or is it all going to be a trudge overland?
It's going to be a pretty much a trudge overland. You probably will be able to find farmsteads here, there, and scattered everywhere. They'll be quite rare out in the marsh, but it is possible to bump into some locals. Nothing ever bad happens out in the marsh, does it?
Well, what do you reckon? Do you reckon a march overland, or just try and maybe hire a boat to drop us off somewhere on the coast, a couple of miles away or something?
Can we just borrow a boat? Boating looks easy.
Why couldn't we just borrow a boat without the owner knowing about it?
Yeah.
I don't
Sure,
believe anybody has experience in boating.
Can't it be that hard?
Everybody's unskilled.
Yeah, but
Right.
surely all you've got to do is run that bit of cloth up that stick and wait for the wind to blow.
I will intimidate the boat to move.
Drown. We're all going to drown so easily.
That is entirely up to you. There are boats for hire if you have any money left. Let's see
How much?
who's got money left.
I mean, is the Great Salt Marsh walkable?
Oh yeah, you can absolutely hike through it.
Guide.
Yeah. So 5 silvers a day will buy you a guide. A chap experienced in travelling the Great Salt Marsh. He's familiar with the local flora and fauna, and he can probably even suggest somewhere safely to sleep. He has a look.
Can I just check something with Lucas?
Yeah.
5 silver a day to guide us to where we need to go. Do you think we'll be able to remember the way back, so we may not have to pay him coming back, if you say what I mean?
Well, it's possible, but also, if we're lucky, we'll be rich on the way back, and we'll probably be drunk before we get home, so half the money will go missing, and he'll have loads of it anyway.
Oh, fair enough.
It's like in some sort of strange world where money just gets drank.
If you didn't know better, you might think that our erstwhile patron had come up with a method for keeping us in his employ.
Think of something.
He's nicking our money. Oh,
He could be bothered though. I mean, let's be brutally honest. We would just drink it anyway.
So, are you happy to employ this guide?
We will employ the guide. We will make preparations for a lengthy overland journey. Like, we will get food.
We're going to need a pack horse or a cart or something like that to carry all this treasure back.
Oh yeah, get a mule through all this.
Right, the guide's name is Perrin. He's a coltish looking man with a dark beige skin, thick lips, brown chestnut hair. His hair is a bright copper brown, cropped straight, and he has a well-groomed goatee. Do you show him the map, or do you tell him where you want him to go? I mean, it's probably the best.
Yeah, I want to go.
So you pull this
I'll
map
show him the
out.
map.
And he sucks on his teeth and he says, I can get you to the area, all right? It'll take about 4 days.
All right.
The first day's fine. We can hike along the Causerie Road, but then we need to turn south into the mire. So that's when it becomes more difficult. I don't know if you've got experience with the mire. He's got that typical sort of outdoorsman look. No offence to yous, of course, but you look like a bunch of city folk. We're going to be plodging through patches of brackish water often up to your waist or perhaps deeper. You might want to invest in a set of waders, perhaps.
Do you know where we can buy waders? Is there a wader shop?
Aye. I can take you to the gentleman outfitters for outdoor sort of fishing, and he sells appropriate protective clothing although it won't stop it completely, it will stop your life being thoroughly miserable. 7 silver. You're looking at least an 8-day round trip. Maybe more if we can't find this wreck. I mean, it had been quite a storm to blow it so far inland to the marsh. Yes, you're going to have to. Can we do a shopping montage? Yeah, you have a shopping montage. You just buy whatever you think appropriate to last maybe 8-10 days out in the marsh.
I listen to the man who actually knows what we need as opposed to things I think we need, because apparently we don't need a hat stand. I don't know where we're going to put a hat in a night, but apparently that's not a good idea, he says. So he knows. He's earning the big money. I didn't realise we carry it.
Right, okay, so you go back to the Porters Guild, and with the aid of Perrin, he hires 2 nondescript NPC porters.
Perfect.
Dugdale and Godwin.
Carry that stuff, thanks very much. I've freed up a lot of weight, so now I can carry more wine.
Yep, you have a big bag of wine. Well done.
Yeah.
You set off the next morning. So you set out the first day and it's nice and easy, but one thing that does strike you quite badly is the smell. Once you go onto the Causeway Road heading towards the sinking lands, the smell of the marsh is a lot worse than you expected. Dave is a little more used to it because he's used to cleaning out cat litter, but the rest of you are quite disgusted with it.
I my silk scarf and wrap it around my face because, my God, that ping at pen and inks.
You suddenly realise why you're the city boys and why you didn't like tramping. And at the end of the first day, Perrin calls to camp. You're on dry land, so you haven't actually getting wet or anything yet. And he says, well, that was the easy part, as he sees Lucas with his silk scarf wrapped around him. You best camp here. It might be the last dry night you get to camp.
I'll give him a mug of wine too because of his good jokes. That's the hard part. The easy part. Nice one, mate.
Yeah, Lucas is like looking worse for wear as he's walked for an entire day, and like he's getting a rock in his heel. Court gets a rock in his heel, but he just doesn't feel it. So like he tips his boot out at the end of the day. There's just a pile of shale falls out of it. So you spend a pleasant evening. The noises are strange. There's hooting of owls, there's low growls, there's splashing noises, and you sleep fitfully. But the next day you wake up and nobody's been eaten by a salt crocodile. So that's a win.
Hang on a minute. Who mentioned crocodiles?
Perrin's
No,
packing his pack up and he's like, you didn't know there was crocodiles in the marsh?
well, it's all right. Nanny told me a story about crocodiles. You can hear them coming because they tick.
He laughs and
I mean,
says,
this woman, like I was having this thing with, sorry, not Nanny. That was just what we called her. Like,
he says, well, what could be, it could be worse. We could run into a behemoth or even a couple of marsh leopards.
what?
A behemoth. Do you know what a killer whale is? A big black and
No.
white thing.
No.
He shakes his head. He's like, boy, you're in for a fun journey. Take a killer whale, add 4 stumpy legs to it, and this thing stomps and swims all throughout the great salt marsh. Terrors they are.
You probably avoid those then.
Definitely should. Luckily, they're quite large and bulky, so we should be able to hear them coming.
While everyone's packing up the camp, I'll stop, get my whetstone out, and sharpen my rapiers and daggers because we're gonna get eaten. I don't like this at all. I'm never leaving the city again. When I get back, I'm never leaving. Nothing good is outside the city.
So he packs it up, pulls his waders on, make sure everybody's gear is stored properly. He says, now we head south.
Okay, I'll start walking, then I'll turn around and realise I'm going the opposite direction to everyone else and turn around and
so
follow.
he leads you south, and a short distance off the road, it doesn't take very long, you actually start squelching through the Great Salt Marsh. You slug through patches of brackish water, there's soggy stretches of thick grass and scraggly trees. It's harder and smellier than anything you could have possibly imagined, and after about 10 minutes you're already exhausted. He says, it's about 3 days' travel to the area, so I suggest you dig in and you need to get yourself a buddy because we have to do a leech check.
I wonder out loud if this is actually all worth it.
It does seem to be a real pain in the arse. Leech check is not something that any of you are familiar with, as none of you are soldiers or have any background like that. But by the end of the first day, he finds a relatively dry patch for you to set the tents up on. All you can hear is the chirp of insects and the croak of bullfrogs. You haven't seen anything huge and nasty. Right, lads, time for a leech check, and begins unbuttoning his breeches.
Hey, now hang on a minute.
I'll turn around and go, it's one of them parties. I'll start taking my breeches off.
Yeah, so you he pulls down the stinking breeches. He says, this is why you need a buddy, because there are certain areas that you can't check to see if there's any leeches, and bends over and provides you with a full moon in the afternoon.
I've got can I do a handstand myself?
So can everybody make me, I guess, vigor? I don't really know what other stat we could use.
Well, there's agility to handstand it, but I did do well.
You're all leech free. He says the little buggers, they get into your skin. You can't feel them, and they get into places you can't see, like the crack of your arse and down the back of your legs. So each person's responsible of checking your leech buddy to make sure there isn't any. So you sleep well, then I guess nobody's too disturbed by.
But I am so mad that my character just goes to sleep straight away. I'm not messing about. They can do anything. Like as soon as the tent's up, I crawl in and fall asleep face down.
Yeah. There's a loud crashing in the middle of the night, and some loud splashing noises, and maybe a growl. You get a pleasant night's sleep. Can I have some notice rolls as you plodge through the stinking mire for the second day? You're just setting up the tent. Everybody except Court, who is blissfully unaware. You hear the snap of a twig and a low growl. Perrin immediately goes on the alert and reaches for his spear. Indicates that you should do otherwise.
Oh, my sword and fall into a classic fencer's stance, ready to defend myself against a varmint. With my other hand, I'll tap Court on the shoulder and point towards the snapped twig.
Camped at the side of a brackish pool. It looks as if a part of the moss and grass has come to life and lets out a low growl, and you realise that two creatures, large cats, but their fur actually looks like grass and fens and bogs. Perrin hisses marsh leopards as the cats rush to attack. Leaping out of the bushes, two what Perrin has described as marsh leopards.
Moggy.
You're up first. You can, because you got Jota, you can go now, or you can wait till later in the round and go at any time.
I will hold my action for now.
Okay, Bert, you've spotted these two cats.
I shall move up to beside Court and hold my action to hit if it charges us.
Okay, and Magnus.
Pretty much likewise, I shall move to there, so I've got me back to court, and I'll keep an eye on that one in front of us, and if it comes anywhere near us, I shall hold my action and belt it.
Next up is the marsh leopard. It bounds towards Court. 1, 2.
Do not get hit it as soon as it comes.
You can, yeah. Right, you strike it, roll your damage. Oh, wow. Both aced. Ouch! Crap. Okay, I am going to Benny that, I think. Or maybe not. Right, so you strike it as it pounces through the air, and you catch it midair, and it collapses to the ground. Luke, it's your turn.
I will take a step back, then I'll hold my attack till it closes in and then get it. Say the immortal words of, hey, kitty, 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 hey, kitty, kitty, kitty.
It runs forward. Do you want to take a stab at it? It's a hit. You stab it. But because the DM's a bastard and has used Benny's, he's soaked the wound. So you cut a neat gash down its side, and it howls and claws at you. And misses. I'm going to Benny that with my last GM Benny of the night. And it's even worse. Right, so it misses the pounce and goes whistling past you. End of round.
Before the round ends, can I move and attack?
Yeah. So you run forward with thunder and lightning. Is he going to headbutt a panther unconscious? Yeah, that's a hit with a raise, so roll your damage. Aye, Chihuahua. It's a wound. I have no bennies left to soak it. So, you what do you do to this leopard as you drop the crap out of it? It's incapacitated.
As it pounces and it's in the air, I just lean in and like I'm heading a football and just nut it.
You nut it clean. You nut it clean between the eyes. Its yellow eyes cross. There's a sickening crack, and the marsh leopard falls to the ground. Marsh leopard on the injury table is bleeding out. So you've broken something inside its head. Blood runs out of its ears and its mouth. Excellent. It just headbutted straight into the ground. Perrin stops, slowly turns, looks at you. It's like, okay.
This shit all the time, by the way. I'll be like, yeah.
As Perrin looks across at us to say what's happened to the second one, I just sort of jerk my thumb at the little corpse lying on the floor and going, "Is the pelt worth anything?"
To Nick a fresh from Lord of the Rings. Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys.
Yummy. No more dried chip biscuit. I can't believe you just headbutted it. Never having done it before, you pull your knife out. You go, how hard can it be? I've done a rabbit before in the kitchen. And proceed to skin a marsh leopard with some success.
We are going to basically go into this place with no idea what we're doing. Come out, and they're going to be like, they were really skilled for it. They just pretend to be incompetent, weren't they?
Can you eat a marsh leopard?
You can eat just about anything if you got enough Tabasco sauce.
I've got wine. We can braise it.
Lucas runs the marsh leopard through, like Wesley running the ROUS. Makes that noise as he runs the leopard through. Well, having dealt with the marsh leopards, you spend the rest of the evening, and beginning on the 4th day, you can make a survival roll at -2 to locate the wreckage.
I'm just curious as to what Perrin thinks of how we dealt with those marsh leopards, because it probably wasn't what he was expecting.
It was certainly not what he was expecting. He had a spear and he took up a fighting stance, and then was not prepared to see Court headbutt a marsh leopard to death.
There's my unskilled roll of 7.
You march for maybe half the day, following the map, everybody arguing about which direction it is. Turns out Andy was right, and you find the Siren wedged in a dense swath of sea hawk trees. The ship lists heavily to the starboard at about a 30-degree angle, and it's clear some of the lower deck is lightly flooded. A fallen tree provides easy access to the upper deck. Give me a notice roll. You look, and there's half a dozen humanoid figures on the deck of the ship. However, Lucas and Bert, you notice that these are actually scarecrows. They look like they've been stuffed and mounted on the deck somehow. And we'll call it a night, as we have a cliffhanger.